Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to be public about
The
this.
book.
Unlock your potential and take the training wheels off. And if I want to enjoy this body, this rented car that I'm in, right, then I should take care of it. I should change the oils. Like, I quit my job. I spent my whole 401k funding this. It's about transforming the way that you think and therefore transforming the way that you live. Really, ultimately, the purpose of the book, for me, is to spread positivity and to help people understand how to think and live positively, because you can do anything. You just have to figure out how and then do it, because you become your inputs. And that's really what the book was, every step of the way.
All right, Matias, welcome to the Book Thinkers Life-Changing Books podcast. How are you feeling today? You ready to get rolling?
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited for this conversation. So for our audience, for members of our audience that are not familiar with you or this brand new book, Warning May Be Habit Forming, what a title. Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them a little bit about you, why you decided to write the book, what your expectations are for it. Why don't you kick us off there?
My name is Matias Barnes, and I actually worked in the construction industry for over a decade, and um, worked in marketing and did some other different things. And long story short, my position that I was in for, like I said, well, the last one I was in was, I don't know, 2 years or something. The position ended, and the company was like, "Hey, you want to do this other job?" And I was like, Anyways, long story short, um, I stopped working there, and I had already started writing this book, which is just basically about positivity and applied positivity. And I had discovered some different things in my own life, and in reading some different things, and I thought, man, these are important notes for people to understand. And I saw all around me, people suffering, and I mean, I still do to some extent. People suffering, living inside of prisons of their own creation. For example, some of the self-sabotage, like when people say, "Oh man, I hate it when I forget to blah blah blah," and you hear that and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, I can help you." Like, you can phrase your self-talk better so that you can live a better life. And so I had sort of started tooling around. I probably had a chapter and a half put together in an outline. And Lisa said, "Hey, don't write your resume, write your book." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I can do that." And so I really threw myself into it. And the name of our company, G Blitz Creative, that's the company we're publishing under, in Amazon, through Amazon currently. But G Blitz Creative, that's shortened down for Geistesblitz, which is a German word that basically, it's like that moment where you just have like that clear intuition, just like a eureka moment. And that's really what the book was. Every step of the way, I didn't know what I was doing, and I've never written a book before, but I researched, and that's probably the biggest thing I took away from the job that I did for the past decade, was you can do anything. You just have to figure out how and then do it. Just get out there and grind. And so I did. And honestly, I didn't even know when I was writing it kind of what shape it was going to take. I had written probably about half of the book before I did the interview that chapter 2 came out of. And, as happens when you're writing a book, I mean, some stuff got thrown out, other stuff came in, things were clarified, rephrased, and it was an exciting ride. But really, ultimately, the purpose of the book, for me, is to spread positivity and to help people understand how to think and live positively, and ultimately improve quality of life. through better thought.
Mm.
Gosh, I wish I could remember the quote exactly, but Oprah said something about this where she said, the most powerful thing is the ability to change your life just by changing your thinking. And that in a nutshell is what I bring to the reader in this book, and I keep it super duper simple. And there's, if you having read chapter 4, Take Command, if you read the book having understood that, you'll see that the whole book is littered with positive programming, uh, you know, to literally impact the reader and create lasting change in their mind without even this, this graphic that I put together,
Mm.
uh unlock your potential. That's a quote from the book. Unlock your potential and take the training wheels off your mind. Those are commands. Those are embedded commands. And the entire book is designed to impact the reader and to reprogram them to think in a way that is more to make them happier, really. And I have huge goals for this book. One of the things that I do daily is I gratitude journal, and I write the format that I gratitude journal. I don't talk about this in the book, but if you do the 30 days, I teach you how to do it. Um, and I gratitude journal every single day for positively impacting 1 billion people through this book. Now, that's a lot, but it's also very achievable. And that doesn't mean selling 1 billion copies, because changing one person to be positive can impact many people.
Do you think,
But ultimately,
sorry,
go ahead.
no, just jumping the gun a little bit here. Do you think that you were a positive person like from the start, or is it something that you had to learn as well over time to become this positive person?
You know, there were I wanted to be a positive person, but I didn't understand the mechanics that were holding me back. And ultimately, that's what this book delivers is the mechanics, because I wanted to be a positive person, but I suffered, just like most people do, from unhelpful programming, much of it, right, instilled in childhood and through education and through, movies and TV and some of these unhelpful ideas and unhelpful phrasings. People like to quote movies. They say movie quotes, but you need to pay attention to the verbs in your movie quotes that you're saying, because you are literally programming yourself to do that. And so I feel like as I discovered some of these things, like I was like, oh man, everybody should know this. Everybody should know this.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know we live in such a world that we grow up with a lot of negative programming. I know something that I've worked on really hard over the last few years is becoming a more positive person because I grew up with a lot of scarcity mindset and all those things that you grow up with this major negativity in my own mind. And it's taken a lot of work to get to the point where I can actually consider myself now a positive person. And it, like you said, it is really, really life changing. And I'm excited that you wrote a book that takes people through that process of finding their positive that's within them, right? Because, even for myself, I wish I had your book just like 3, 4, 5 years ago when I was starting my journey, because it would have shortcutted a lot of the things that I had to learn on my own. So I'm thankful that you took the time to do that. Why do you think that we grow up with such a negative mindset? I feel like that tends to be more natural than the positive mindset, or maybe it's not natural and it's learned. What are your thoughts around that?
I think it's learned. I think it's perpetrated.
I have three
Yeah. I
kids.
mean, my mom is German. My name Matthias, that's a German name. I spell it the Spanish way, but my mom is German. Do you know how many thousands of times I heard the phrasing, don't forget blah blah blah? Do you know how much work it was to unlearn that? I mean, you do, because you just told me that you do. And I think that a lot of it is cultural. I think a lot of it depends on culture. I think a lot of it is peer driven, which of course is all media driven and social media driven these days. You know, movies and TV have a huge impact, but so does all the scrolling. The scrolling has a huge impact. You know, I read somewhere, I was doing some research on something, and I read somewhere that the typical 16th century just villager, just Catholic villager in, you know, in the 16th century saw less images in their entire day than you as a modern person see in the first minute of opening your phone. I mean, it's and you think about all of those words, and yes, the images have great impact too, but all of those verbs, all of those commands assaulting you. And that's why, you know, I talk about in the book, that's why I talk about paying attention to your inputs and trimming your inputs, because you become your inputs.
So what are some examples of commands that people might be subconsciously receiving as they scroll through social media that they're not aware of, that are negative?
Oh, I mean, you know, kind of put me on the spot there, but pretty much any present tense verbs, right? You know, so I follow a lot of like positivity stuff online. And sometimes it makes me cringe when I'll see like a you know, one of those little quotes or whatever, and then it'll say like, don't be afraid, or it'll say like, uh, you know, but it's like negative phrasing, right? So don't be afraid contains the embedded command be afraid. And so yes, you're getting don't be afraid on a conscious level, but you're also programming yourself, and you're creating that, you're instantly creating that internal misalignment with phrasing that is conflicting, right? And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's I think trimming your inputs is super duper important, but also using the antidote, because you can't block it all out. You can't block it all out. You know, it's not even possible. And I'll tell you right now, being a full-time book marketer, which includes a lot of playing on TikTok and playing on Instagram and blah, 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 you have to use the antidote. You have to consciously, intentionally counter some of the phrasing that you encounter, because you're not going to be able to filter it all out, you know. So yeah, I don't know, that's basic. I don't know if that answers your question, but
It does. So
uh
what's for somebody that's listening today and they go, okay, warning, maybe habit forming sounds like it could be the antidote to all of the negative commands that I subconsciously get on social media. What's an example, an actionable example of an antidote to the negative stuff that we consume out there? You want to give like a little
yeah,
preview to
absolutely,
everybody?
absolutely. You know, just back to that motivational quote that I mentioned earlier. Do not be afraid, right? You know, if I see that, I'm going to instantly say be courageous. I'm going to say it out loud right now, because I don't need that, and I do need this.
Yeah, I love that. Be courageous. Yeah. And so warning may be habit forming. Yeah,
I
I could
didn't even
see.
know the title. Nick, I did not know the title of this book. I don't know if I maybe if you scrolled back and looked at some of my old Instagram videos, there's a video where I talk about that. But when I was writing this, I was like, I don't know what the title is. In fact, it wasn't until I completed chapter 6 that I realized that it was going to be a 30-day transformation with like daily programming. I didn't even know that I was going to do that. I arbitrarily picked 30 days because it's about a month. And you're right, it does take 21 days on average to you know, to instill a new habit. But you know, the book isn't really about habits. But if you read it and you do the exercises, you will pick up some habits. And you've been warned, it's in the title. But it's, you know, that's not it's not like, hey, let's work on your habits. There's another book I'm seeing on social media recently, which I haven't picked up a copy of yet, but Goal Getting Journal. And you know, that one, from some of the imagery I've seen, is like very focused on like, you know, I'm going to get these goals. my book isn't about getting goals. It's not about forming habits. It's about transforming the way that you think and therefore transforming the way that you live.
Yeah, it all starts in your mind. It comes down to the mindset. And I think it's so cool that you wrote a book that is doing that, is helping people start with their mindset, because that's where you begin, right? Oh, crazy. When you were writing this book, you said, you didn't have the title until chapter 6. So what were your thoughts around all the stuff that you were putting into it? You said that you weren't even sure if it was how it was gonna come out. Like, what were you thinking as you were putting this into a book format? All these thoughts that are coming through, like, what was going through your mind? Were you worried about the outcome of serving a billion people? Or you just like, I just need to get this out because the universe is telling me? Like, what were your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the whole book is Geistes Blitz. Like I didn't even write any of it. I mean, I did, but like I feel like if you look at my LinkedIn profile, I have on there that I'm a conduit of positivity.
Mm.
And that's what I feel like. I feel like this isn't even me. Like I'm just the messenger, guys. And I finished drinking it now, but my favorite coffee cup here says life is my favorite adventure. Okay. And that is literally where I'm at. I'm like you got to understand how crazy this is. Like I quit my job. I spent my whole 401k funding this. Okay. Like I burned bridges plus. Now, that's not to say that I don't know I could go and get a job for 100K tomorrow if I wanted to. I could, but that's not the path that I've chosen. And the path that I've chosen is to be this conduit of positivity and to bring that and I'm doing it in the most ethical way that I can possibly do. You know what I mean? Like I didn't do a second book that you have to buy that you have to write in and the workbook. I didn't do that, right? I didn't set it up so that you're going to buy another journal from me after you finish the 30 days, right? I'm not selling another product. One of the questions Nick had for me was what are you going to offer to your super clients, to the people that like really, really dig it, right? But this is not a lead getter. I don't care about that. I don't need people to I don't want to do conferences. I don't want to talk in front of a million people. I want people to get this programming into their minds and to live better as a result.
Have you been scared? Like, have you been scared in this whole process?
No, no, not at all. One of the things that I do daily, one of the things that I do daily is I sit in silence. I like to sit in silence. I usually can only handle about 10 minutes at a time, but I'll sit in silence with the lights off and just listen, and a lot of stuff comes to you when you do that. I'll tell you what, you think the internet is full of everything. No, I don't know what you call it is full of everything. And if you sit in silence, you can access it.
Yeah, I used to listen to podcasts and books on my daily walk with my dog because it's out in the woods and there's nobody around. But I've started to walk without headphones and just observe my own thinking. I'm still walking, so there's more inputs than sitting in a quiet room by myself, but it's a walking form of meditation and I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, I was going to point out, there's a lot of opportunities to write right inside the book, and I took full advantage of that. And I thought it was a lot of fun. It's nice to be able to journal inside of the book and not have to purchase a second journal.
Totally, totally. Because I'm not about the commercialism. I don't care. I don't care. And in fact, I do know that this book is going to be huge, and I do know that there will be, money that comes with that. But I'm going to use that to do good too. You know what I mean? Like when it comes to like having money, my hero is that Patagonia guy. Like just do something good with it.
Have you read any of Stephen Pressfield's work, Matias?
I haven't.
So he has a book called The War of Art where he talks all about the muse, which is essentially this idea that there's this external consciousness, you can call it whatever you want. And essentially, as an author, when you're ready, you can download information from this external consciousness, let it pass through you onto paper, and then distribute it for the positive good. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened when you decided to write this book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And to be honest, it's not even that I decided to write this book. What the real decision was that I decided to become an author. And so this is just the start. I'm gonna grind out a few other books. I have a lot of material to write from. I am, I don't know. Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to be public about this. I spent a fair amount of time addicted to heroin, and I've got a lot of life experience to write from. You know, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. And there, like you said, you plug into the Geistesblitz, into the G Blitz, and you don't have to think about it. It comes out of you.
Well, you
Now,
just opened a can of worms for us to go a little bit farther into, I think. Because it's not often that an author is that vulnerable, which is good, because I think that our listeners will get to know you even better and form a better connection with what you're talking about now. So, how long
sure,
have you been sober from the heroin addiction?
5, 6 years maybe. I don't know. I don't keep track. I don't celebrate that. It's doesn't. It's part of my past, and I'll tell you what. I thank my past self for making those mistakes. Right. I thank my past self for doing that. And I appreciate my past self for the, $100,000 plus that I spent on heroin. You know, that's not to say that I recommend it to anyone. I don't. Uh, but I've been working hard to improve myself over time. And, yeah, I got off of the junk, and I got off of the cigarettes. I haven't smoked cigarettes for like 2 years. I smoked cigarettes for like 20 years. I don't recommend that either. You know, uh,
Yeah.
we used to drink after getting off of the heroin, we used to drink a half gallon of vodka every other day. Not Again, not something I would recommend to anybody, but I've been like, okay, I know who I want to be, and I'm gonna just be that person, and checking off boxes along the way. And I lost like 50 pounds. I started eating keto and lost like 50 pounds like 2 years ago. You know what I mean? These are all things where I was like, okay, I started working out like two months ago. I started working out. I never worked out a day in my life, Nick. Never, never, ever, ever. I thought people who work out are chumps, but they're not. They're right. And if I want to enjoy this body, this rented car that I'm in, right, then I should take care of it. I should change the oil.
One final question for you, and I see Luke's unmiked himself, so he's unmuted, so he wants to ask some questions too. What do you think the biggest difference in daily self-talk mindset is today versus, let's call it, 6 years ago?
Like I said, I wanted to be a positive person. I did. I wanted to be better. I wanted to make improvement in my life. And it's been a journey understanding how to do that. There was a lot of unhelpful programming which I had to overcome. There were ideas that I had, like, Luke mentioned scarcity mindset. There were ideas I had to dump. You know, there were one of the things I posted on Insta not too long ago, and TikTok, was something about opinions, right? And so an opinion is something that you believe to be true, but you cannot prove it. Okay. And I had a lot of opinions that were not helpful, right? Like I heard someone say the other day, oh, I'm not a good reader. I heard somebody say that. And I thought to myself, why? Why did you cast that spell on yourself? What's wrong with you? You know what I mean? So I think understanding the mechanics of it has made the biggest difference.
Going back just a little bit, um,
Sure.
you you were able to overcome your addiction to heroin, and I'm just really curious because that's such a hard one to get off. At least from my experience, I have a brother-in-law who died from a heroin overdose. I've known several other people that have. have
I'm
fought
sorry.
with that and been plagued with that. What drove you to stop taking, to stop using heroin? Like, what drove you?
Well, it always starts with a decision, right? And once you decide to go on the journey, then you got to put your shoes on and you still got to walk all those steps. And when I decided to, was really when Lisa and I got together. I decided, like, you know what? I got to be done with this. And I didn't know how. I really didn't. And I thought I just got to find a way. And just like anything else I've done, you just decide. And really, it's a four-step process, which isn't in my book, but it'll be in a future book. Decide. No, actually, imagine, decide, plan, which includes research, and then execute. And that's what I've done with everything in my life. And so I was like, oh well, I guess methadone's the way. And so I was on methadone for like a year, which I hated that. Oh, it was terrible. But it starts with a decision. You have to decide. You have to want to. You have to want to. Um, you have to want to be and it's not. I think people get hung up on like, oh, I want this thing or I want this blah blah blah. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Be the person that has that. And besides, wanting things is just telling the universe that you don't have them, and that's not helpful anyway.
I like that a lot. Wow.
It's like an
That's
affirmation that you don't have anything. Yeah.
It really is. It really is, right? Because when you want something, you're just like pushing it away. Why would you do that? Why would you push it away?
Man, this is getting me so excited listening to you talk, feeling the energy. I know that a lot of our listeners are going to feel super encouraged listening to this. So thank you for sharing this story, because it's a powerful one. It reminds me of, there's this guy who's really big right now on social media, Alex Ramosi. He talks about kind of a similar concept, but he says be, do, have, and it's very similar to that. Like, you have to imagine you're that person or that whatever it is that you want in your life. You can't say, oh, I want it, but you have to actually just manifest that and be that person. If you want to be that healthy person, go out, be a healthy person. Don't say I want to be a healthy person, but be a healthy person. And I think you're a testament to that for sure.
That's why I wear the author pin, bro. That's why I wear the author pin, because I'm freaking serious about the identity that I've created.
I
Mm.
need one of those.
I'm super serious. I'm not playing any games.
Yeah, the first time, Matias, I ever read about that was in Jim Quick's book, Limitless. And he says, I am are the two most powerful words in the English language. And I agree. Once I said I am a reader, I went to Barnes and Noble and I got a little like membership card and I carried that around in my wallet because I said that's what a reader would do. A reader would have this in their
Right.
wallet at all times. Right. So I am a
Sure.
reader. I had a lot to reprogram myself when I first started.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. What would an author do? Right? It's what would a book marketer do?
So let me ask about that. What has been the most successful strategy that you've implemented so far for book marketing?
I think what is going to have the biggest returns is quite simply the micro influencers. So I am working with a website that connects you with influencers, and basically, I'm doing a gifted program where I'm sending them copies of the book in exchange for them to saying, hey, look, I'm reading this, right? And there's a lot of components that go into it. A big part of it is sellability, right? And so when someone gets to the Amazon page, it has to be something that they can buy. Like one of the things that I'm working on right now is reviews. I people expect to see a certain number of reviews before they click buy. I don't know what that number is, and I think it varies from person to person, but um you know it's been very interesting dissecting and learning the book marketing piece. And it's like, okay, like we this is like I think our third, no, fourth book. I don't have them right next to me, but we wrote a couple of other books first, to learn the process, and like we did a his and hers gosh, I wish I had them handy. We did a his and hers, like be the champion of your relationship, right? And so that was a paperback, had like 60 ideas of like nice stuff you can do for your significant other. Lisa published one that was love is everywhere. You just have to look for it. And it has like a bunch of like different pictures of whatever. But the marketing part is the most interesting part. And part of what we've learned with the other books is how to use Publisher Rocket and how to do some of the Amazon ads and some of that stuff. But again, got to have a sellable product. And so, uh, you know, making sure that the right people are reading it and getting reviews up right now is a big part of the strategy.
Yeah, I love to hear that. It's an impossible game with millions of different variables, but it's something that we're always learning and trying to improve. And you just put the book in front of good people, and you keep putting it out there, and eventually you sell some books.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't need to know the how because I didn't know the how for any of this. Every step of the way has been like, I'm going to just do this. And like that copy that you guys have, hey, sorry about the typos, guys. Like the first 100 copies had some typos. Oh, well, you know what though? My editor, it was his first time. Me, I'm the editor.
Hey,
And now
we love that though.
it's just truth, right? Like I have nothing to hide.
Mm.
Like my whole brand, my whole identity is transparency.
I love how you are, to me, the embodiment of the universe is conspiring for you. I don't know
Yeah,
if you've heard that term, but it's from,
sure.
yeah,
The
it's just
Alchemist.
The Alchemist. That's right. I always get that one confused with the Four Agreements. I don't know why, but yeah, The Alchemist. And I think you're just a living proof that the universe can conspire, does conspire for you. You just have to step into it. And it's a very cool to see that you're doing that actively as we're watching it
You know
unfold.
what people don't realize is that the universe is already conspiring to do your bidding, but you're just a bad boss that doesn't know how to tell the universe what to do. You know what I mean? I mean, not you personally, but that's what I found, and that's what I learned, that I was telling the universe to screw me over. Why? Why did I do that?
Do you have any tips for people listening? Like what's one thing they can do today that can change the way they get from the universe and make things show up for them? I know you have a whole book full of that, but it's
I mean, if I distilled it down to like just one thing, just read.
we're doing
Read
something right,
read
Nick.
books. Read books, right? And now I know that that could be counterproductive if you're reading things that aren't helpful. That could happen, but if you read, you're thinking on a level that people don't usually think on when they're just talking. Like even this, right? Like I didn't plan for this. I didn't write anything down. I didn't, oh, I'm going to make sure I'm going to mention that. I didn't even know what I was going to talk about. Doesn't matter, right? Because I'm just plugged into the Geistesblitz. I'm in the zone. I'm in the Tao, right?
The Geistesbliss. I gotta remember that. I'm gonna have to look up the spelling of that and everything. Maybe that's a new tattoo, Nick, or maybe that's my first tattoo. I don't know. I like that a lot. Such a cool
Yeah,
concept for sure.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I also have German heritage too, Matthias. So I'm with you.
totally. I just figured, for the company name, we were like, let's just call it G Blitz because we don't want to trouble people. I'll tell you, on my birth certificate, my name is actually spelled Matthias. But since my parents had it changed on my passport, they won't spell it that way anymore. So I actually spell it the Spanish way, because it's easier for people, right? And one thing I learned is, it's not it's best to avoid creating obstacles
I
for
agree. A
people, right? And
confused
so,
customer always says no.
What has been the biggest challenge in getting your book out? What has been the biggest challenge for you that you're trying to overcome or that you overcame?
oh man, well, she's not going to watch this, but uh, my wife doesn't have the same level of like, I just know. right? Like beyond the shadow of a doubt, like I just know that this is what I'm supposed to do and I'm doing it. For her, she's like, okay, well, we've got enough to get through this month in the bills. And I'm like, you know, she told me the other day, she said, um, it's costing you more money to have your books in Canada on Amazon.ca than what you're making. I was like, so, why are you even telling me this? Listen, I understand how this goes. The book goes like this. Well, backwards maybe for you. I don't know, whatever, but it goes viral, right? And when you look at a graph of something going viral, you can't look at a point and think that you know anything about the next point. You just can't, right? And
Sure.
so I think that's been my biggest challenge is maintaining uh being nice in the face of uh you know, facts oriented thinking, you know, if you will. Because the thing is you can always like look at like what happened in the past. And this isn't in my book either, but I'm gonna tell you right now, if there's something that's not positive, always describe it in a past tense,
Mm.
right? So like for example, oh, my stomach was really hurting. Why would you say my stomach really hurts? That doesn't make any sense because now you're creating a reality that you don't want to live in.
Mm,
Right? But if you always past tense it, then you're distancing yourself.
yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, you're right. Hindsight's always 2020. And if somebody tells you they knew what was going to happen, they're not telling the truth.
No,
Right?
they're not because you decide. You decide
Yeah.
every minute with your thinking.
Yeah. No. We're cut from the same cloth as far as that's concerned.
And I'm just going to slide this in here real quick. You know, one of the things that I find very interesting is multiple world interpretation, right? And I don't know if you guys know about this, but basically, some of the people at the CIA think that it's like like multiple.
We speak that language a little bit.
For
You can
sure.
Right,
keep going with
Yes.
it.
right. And so basically through your thinking, you're just pulling yourself into this reality or that reality, whichever universe in the omniverse that there is. And I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but it sure looks like it.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson said once, I heard him say, there are billions of future realities, and every single minute, the choices that you make determine which one that you end up in. And that's kind of the way that
Sure.
I think about it. There's a reality where my hand went up 1 second faster and went down 1 second faster, which is different than the one that we're currently sitting in. And so there are
Totally.
very bad realities in your future, but also very positive ones too. And you get to make the choice which one you want to live in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. A tagline that didn't make it into the book, but which I particularly enjoy, um, is, you know, you create your own reality. Create one you want to live in.
Yeah, I have a tattoo right here that says reality is negotiable, if you could
Yeah,
see it. So you get to
that's awesome.
negotiate, you get to decide. It's up to you.
Totally.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
Well
I
right.
said.
think we're
Well,
very much on the same page, very much on the same page with that. And I think that there are a fair number of people that are on the same page, but it needs to grow. It needs to be almost everybody, you know?
yeah.
And I figure there's 2 billion English readers on this planet, and some of them probably can't afford to buy a book. Just true facts, right? So that's where I came up with my 1 billion number. You know, I figured if I can get half of the readers, then you know, that's pretty good.
I would say so. That'd be the best selling book of all time, right behind the Bible. So you'd be right there.
Oh no, don't get me started. You know what my BHAG is? My big hairy audacious goal is to write a positive programming edition of the Bible. The Bible is, by the way, and like you know, I don't need to go into what my personal faith is. That doesn't matter. But the Bible is actually littered with unhelpful programming. There's so much, so much. Every time an angel appears, don't be afraid.
Be
It's
courageous.
mm, right. Right. And you know, I know there's like 1,000 versions of the Bible, but most of the versions of the Bible include all kinds of conflicting and unhelpful programming. And I know, you know, some people would say, "Oh, well, you got to be accurate to the word or whatever." No, I don't. So that's my BHAG is eventually, and I'm going to need help for that. I'm going to need like an army of people to help me with that. But um, I'd love to produce a version of the Bible that is 100% positive programming. And so as you enjoy reading through it, you know,
That's
you're
awesome.
you're also feeding yourself.
Luke, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm actually getting kind of emotional here, but which is kind of typical for me. But it's so interesting because I grew up in a conservative Christian home, and a lot of the Bible I was taught was extremely negative. Like it was only the negative that was brought up. Like that was it. So we actually just worked with an author recently who had a very different outlook on the Bible than I ever understood, which was just extremely positive. All the positive verses she was pulling up, and I think it would be so incredible to be able to have, even if it like a church, literally on Sunday, that was opening this Bible that was actually positive and wasn't just putting people down and making people are already negative. We're already like we already have a hard time in life, and then a lot of times you go to these churches and it just makes your life that much harder and that much more negative, which why are we doing that? So it got me excited when you said this is your big goal. I mean, I love it. I'm in support of it for sure. Count me in.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you
cool.
know, I want to help people wake up. You know, I want to help people to want. Kidding. I am going to help people wake up, right? I am going to see a huge mindset shift in this country, in the UK, I'm going to be huge in the UK. I've got like 40 micro influencers over there, most of whom haven't even received their books yet. Guys, like the stuff that I've been working on, the stuff that's about to hit the frying pan, there's a lot. There's a lot. And, you know, I'm excited for to see it happen, right? But I also have to temper that with like, okay, but there's more, right? You know, one of my next goals, I want to write a book called Culture Warrior. Now that one came title first, right? Oh no, sorry, Culture Ninja. Culture Ninja. Take it back. Culture Ninja. That one came title first. You know, I had this job where I built and I ran a call center, and I'm sorry if I'm going over on time or whatever. Um, but I working for this construction company, okay, one of the things that they did is they franchised. And so they sold franchises like you can have your own construction company like us. You know, you can have our logo and blah blah blah. Well, the franchisees needed some help managing their leads. And so they were like, "Matias, you know about handling leads. Build us a call center," right? So I did it, right? I built the flow, I wrote all the scripts, you know, I hired and trained the people, blah blah blah. Anyways, because we had a lot of East Coast franchisees, I had to start at like 5 in the morning. And because I had to like unlock the door and like let people in to, you know, to this was before COVID got all crazy and everyone would work from home. But you know, and so I would get there at like 5 in the morning and technically I was going to be there for like a 12-hour day. And so I started developing this like culture ninja program where I would find ways to improve the life of my coworkers and the morale of the whole office. You know, like one of the things I did was I would do an environment focus. And that could be as simple as like, hey, this one trash can hasn't been taken out and it's going to overflow, knock it out, right? Oh man, it looks like this area over here could use a little bit of vacuuming, right? Or oh man, you know, so and so left this on or whatever. I'm going to turn that off for them. You know what I mean? Whatever the case was, right? After I stopped working there, Lisa still was working there for like 3 months after something like that. One time I went there with her and I went around and I put post-it notes with just a smiley, no words, just a smiley face on everybody's desk, like just sort of in the, you know, and in here, one of the things I have you do is hide nice notes for people. Why? Because everything nice you do for someone else is actually for you. So I'm excited. I'm gonna crank that out. Other things on the horizon, a keto restaurant. Lisa and I have been eating keto for like 2 years, and uh, we fell in love with Pismo Beach, California. And so I want to open a keto restaurant, and I will open a wildly successful keto restaurant in Pismo Beach, California. 2 million visitors per year. Beautiful town. So I'm got that coming up, and I don't know. I think I'm gonna write a novel too. I think I'm gonna write a novel, and I'm gonna just basically make it so heavily programmed that when you read it, you'll just be like smiling the whole time. You'll be like, "Oh man, I just feel great."
Well, if talking to you is any indication, I think that'll happen very easily. 'Cause
Oh
I
yeah, right?
do
Because
enjoy
it's the
system
same
building.
thing, right? Just imagine, decide, plan, and execute. That's what it is, right? That's literally all that life is. And you can do whatever you want in this life.
Mm.
Just
I agree.
decide.
It's negotiable. You just decide. Uh,
Right.
Matias, we've got to wrap up here in a minute. Luke has a famous question that we end all podcasts with now. So, Luke, you want to hit him with the question?
Yes, I do. All right, Matthias, here it goes. So you pass away, unfortunately, and all the stuff that you've left behind disappears, but you're allowed to leave the world with one single piece of advice. What would it be?
Ouch. Oh man, now I got to get one of those engraving machines and print my whole book in stone.
There you go.
Oh man, if I could only leave one thing, maybe I'll bury a copy next to the Georgia Guidestones.
There you go.
Um, oh, if I could only say one thing, I think I would take it back to that tagline that didn't make it into the book, and that's that you decide your own reality. You create your own reality, create one you want to live in. I think that's the fundamental essence,
Mm,
right? And the book just is the how. There's a lot of the how. You know, how do you do that? Well, you do that through using the right vocabulary, and you do that through using the right sentence structure, and you do that through, you know, using present tense journaling. I am so happy and I'm so grateful to be a book author, right? Now, that one's already true, so I don't know. I'm so happy and I'm so grateful to impact 1 billion people to live and think more positively. That's just the how. The sitting in silence for 10 minutes, that's just the how. But the what, that is, you know, you create your own reality. You're responsible.
mm,
Be responsible.
I like it.
I do. Yeah, where can we find you? What can people do? Where can they go to get your book? How can they find out more about you?
Sure. Yeah, I've got warning, maybe habitforming.com. I actually, it's crazy. Was not even surprised that it was available because it was such a Geistesblitz moment, the title. So I was like, it's probably .com. Oh, yep, there it is. Warning, maybe habitforming.com. I've got that. I'm on Instagram, Matias.Barnes.3. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and TikTok, all that good stuff. The book is currently for sale on Amazon. So Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, .uk.com.au. It's available in Germany, but yeah. But one of the things that we did and what we found in our research was that uh, in order to put ourselves in the best position, we went and bought our own ISBNs. We created an LLC. We bought our own ISBNs. We're doing everything the right way.
Mm,
Everything has to be done the right way in order to have excellent results.
very good. Well, I look forward to getting this episode out for our listeners. It's gonna be life changing, and you know what? Hopefully, we get at least 1,000 positive thinkers in this one, so we can add that to your billion lives changed.
Awesome. Luke, Nick, it's been excellent. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for taking the time. Sorry about the hiccups at the start
No worries.
with the tech and whatnot. But I appreciate you guys, and I like what you do.